think that actually takes us on to our next topic quite nicely, which is discussing, I think, probably one of the biggest fundamentals in Geoguessr that I think I see a lot of new players make the mistake of, is coverage. And I think every now and then you'll be doing a stream or you'll be part of a stream and you'll see somebody come on and they'll drop a guess like right in the middle of China. And and they're like, oh, why was that like Japan or Thailand instead of China? And I think that there's a barrier of that coverage knowledge, which I think is really, really important. So I think in terms of looking at the coverage, we're just going to swap over to a different screen here. There we go. So let me move my webcam out of the way. So I think for me personally, like the way I got to understand coverage better is just by looking at the map maker or the map creation tool in GeoGuessr, because it gives you an idea of what you can work with.
Definitely, but keep in mind, not every new GeoGuessr player has a GeoGuessr subscription, so they'd rather have to look into the standard Google Maps, because that tool you can only access when you have a GeoGuessr Pro account.
Yeah, when you've got that is correct. Yeah, when you've got a pro account, which does cost at least £250. It's I think it's about 20 quid for a pro account, which is makes me ever so happy when it doesn't work. So in terms of this coverage map, you can also find this through Google Street View. Can you, Nighty? Is that something that's easy to find?
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
Fantastic.
You can see on Google Maps a small yellow guy that you can click on, and immediately you have the whole coverage, what is covered by Street View.
Interesting. Right. Well, that's good to know. And I think so. I think the key point here is what you see a lot of new players who come to the game is they assume that, which is quite sweet really, because I did the exact same thing. But they assume that the entire globe has had a Google car drive over it. And I think that makes guessing within GeoGuessr a bit more magical than it actually is. It does break the spell a little bit when you understand that there are large parts of the Earth that aren't covered. As you know, there's rightly been claimed that these are getting covered when they can be. But I think Africa, it's a great continent to take for example. Huge place with varying different landscapes and architecture and all the kind of relevant stuff that you would factor into your guess, but you're not actually guessing in Africa as a continent. You're guessing between Senegal, Ghana, Nigeria, Uganda, Kenya, South Africa, and Botswana. When you're doing like the standard kind of coverage, so it doesn't make guessing easy by any stretch of the imagination, but it does kind of narrow it down a little bit, and we'll kind of look into that a little bit later. So one thing I'd say for new players, certainly it helps me out a lot, is even if you know the country's Australia, well, where are you going to click in Australia? Don't bother clicking over here because you're not going to get any points for it, right? Oh, and yeah, as somebody's rightly pointed out, yes, Eswatini and Lesotho are also covered in South Africa. Thank you for that. Yeah. So I think that kind of just goes over coverage. Not a huge topic, I think, with too much detail in, other than take a look at it, understand, what's covered, and what has more coverage as well. If some places have got.
But
Oh.
Sorry to interrupt you, but if you play hand-picked maps that users created, be aware that it's just based on the official Google coverage. People can take pictures, we call them photospheres, and they can appear in every single country of the world.
True. So to sum that up then, if I said if you're on top of a Google car, that's the official coverage. But then if you're from a camera, like somebody using a 360 camera, or somebody taking like a photosphere or a panorama, that type of thing, that's unofficial coverage.
Yes.
Yeah, and you should be able to check at the bottom, on the bottom right of the map. It should say if it wasn't a official coverage, then it will say the name of the person who made it or the company, and otherwise it should just say 2020 Google, I think.
Solid, solid. Because I think we had was a guest on my stream the other day that was Bhutan, and apparently it did
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, it's
classic example of it. It kind of tells you the place on the coverage itself. But then if you're like me, I clicked somewhere 3,000 miles away. So that, we're not all brilliant at looking at that kind of stuff.